Madam President, Madam Chairperson, colleagues and friends. I'm going to put aside the titles for the moment. Fellow Spiritualists. It's a great pleasure to be here in this beautiful building. I'm taller than that. It is really an honour to be here today. Not only to be within this beautiful centre and witness the work that it does, but more so to be here with committed spiritualists. Spiritualism, as you might have gathered, is very important to me. But spiritualists are even more important. When I stand here and look at people who follow the same way that I do, I realise and understand that if I was to ask you what spiritualism meant to you, each one of you would have a different view. Each one of you would take something from this truth that would motivate and help you through this week, this day, this year, this life. You see, spiritualism isn't dogmatic. It doesn't have rules and regulations. It doesn't say you must do this, you must do that. That's really down to our personal responsibility. But spiritualism has one fact, and only one fact. We can set aside all that man has created within the name of spiritualism and boil it down to one single fact, and that is that life continues. That is the only part that matters, that we accept this truth, that life continues. Now you may say that that's making things very easy and very simple, but let's look at that for a moment. If we truly accept that as a fact, and we're not wearing spiritualism as a badge that we take off on Sunday and put away for the rest of the week, if we wear our name of spiritualism as a way of life, we must look at that one fact and see how that has changed us. If knowing that truth hasn't changed you, can you say you're truly a spiritualist? If in your daily life you don't recognise that truth, then its purpose is perhaps lost. When I became involved in spiritualism in my early days, I was full of enthusiasm. I wanted to tell the world. I was then employed in the hotel and leisure industry. One of my colleagues wanted to know where I was going one evening, and I said, I'm going to the Spiritualist church. I got a very strange look. The next morning, he had the grace to be interested enough to ask if I'd had a good evening. I said, yes, I did, and I had communication from members of my family. I was very happy. To which he shrugged and said, so what? To him, it was just another form of entertainment. He hadn't grasped the fact that if our loved ones can communicate through the mechanics of mediumship, then it changes this whole life that we're living. It influences how we think, how we are, and who we are. Because if we accept that this truth is that life continues, then it puts aside a great deal that we perhaps should think about. When we say it changes me, no longer is there that threat that at some point there will be an end. Because if that was the case, all that we do and all that we are would surely be pointless. No longer is there that threat of if you believe in me, you will be given the truth of everlasting life. There's no condition. It's part of life. If we accept that, we then accept that there is within us that essence of spirit. That the physical form that we have It's just the vehicle. It takes us through this journey. So therefore things start to look differently. No longer do we have to put up with this form and think this is me. So I'm sure like you, we've all got things we'd like to change. Suddenly we start to think about the truth that is me. Many, many years ago, within one of our trance circles, somebody who works with me quite closely asked the group, he said, "What is the purpose of an apple?" And the group, one person in the group said, "Well, it's food." The reply was, "Think again." He said, "You walk past the fruit bowl and see in there an apple that is careworn, perhaps a little bruised, perhaps a little wrinkled, because time has not been too good to it. Do you choose that apple, or do you choose the one that's nice and shiny and bright?" There was a silence. He said, "And then when you choose the nice shiny apple, you bite and find that the core is rotten, or the flesh is sour. And when you have to eat the one that's wrinkled, you find that it has the sweetest flesh and the core that's sound." He said, "Think again about the apple. Its purpose is its core, its centre, that will go on to produce life." He said, "Is that not the same as you? What we see on the outside isn't important. What is important is within. And sometimes we're judged by what we see. Perhaps how we wear our clothes. Perhaps how life has been with our wrinkles and such. But once you start to accept this truth that is life continues and we are of spirit, we then start to search to look for that spirit within. Not only with ourselves, but all of those whom we meet. In doing so, we recognize that they are the same as us. That the differences of language, the differences of colour of skin, of location and geography don't matter at all. What is important, we understand that each and every one of us is on this same journey. A journey that sometimes we want to walk away from. Sometimes, in fact more times, we don't understand it. There must be a purpose. Because we've chosen to be here. We've chosen to be here at this time to meet these people, to have the support from those who are close to us, and the challenges from those who perhaps would rather not have. We have chosen this pathway because we have come from somewhere else, from the spiritual realms. We have chosen to be here now, and we will take back all that we've learned. Very recently, within the same circle, a discussion took place about life. It was a very interesting discussion. It covered all sorts of areas. But it was simmered down to one little part, and it meant a great deal to all the sitters who were there. And the gentleman who gave it said, "Remember one thing. You are the sum total of all of your experiences. You will never be more, but remember you will never be less." The promise that each and every day, every experience we have is important. Because in each experience, in each event that we witness, we grow. Perhaps in our joyful life and joy to move through this life, we don't understand and accept or notice that. When we walked in the door today, it was a beautiful welcome. People sharing thoughts, sharing words, sharing smiles. in that second you have grown. In that second that you shared that moment, that smile, that word, you as an individual have progressed. Can we think each day that that should be? That way your spiritualism, your understanding, your belief, whatever way you want to call it, is vital and living. We shouldn't resign spiritualism to a row of dusty books that nobody wants to read. It's alive and well and here and now. And not only in this room. There's a big worldwide movement of people just the same as you, who have found the truth that life continues. When we take that truth, there is one thing that we have to do. We have to serve those from spirit and serve ourselves the best. How can we do that? Do we stand on the corner telling people how marvellous life is, blessing them? Where would that get you? Perhaps taken away in a van somewhere. So there must be a different answer. But one way that we can serve ourselves and serve spirit is to live each day to the full. Because we must remember that this life is only temporary. Because if we've accepted that life is a continuous pathway, that we've come from spirit, that we return back to it, this is just a little hiccup in the middle. And we don't know that today isn't the most purposeful day that you have chosen to be here for. So we must serve ourselves by making the most of today, and the most of tomorrow, and however many days that we have left. Because the one assurance we have is that we don't know when that transition will take place. So serve spirit, fill each day. Fill each day with experience. Some will be joyful, some will be hurtful. It doesn't matter. Because through all of them, you will grow. The one promise we have from spirit is that all spirit is progressive. Progressive because of the life we lead. Progressive because of the things we accept. Progressive because it is life. I want to finish by sharing something with you. It was actually given to the International Spiritualist Federation in an address by Arthur Conan Doyle. Those of you who know Sherlock Holmes, Arthur Conan Doyle was one of the greatest supporters of spiritualism. He put his reputation on the line, something that perhaps not all of us are willing to do. But he used his place and his power to promote spiritualism. And at a congress, an International Spiritualist Congress in 1928, he said these words: "I hope you will go back to your various countries buoyed up with strength and hope. You will feel that you are not isolated and alone, but that you are parts of one great brotherhood. It is true that each country we are us, the minority. But then the cream is always the minority when compared to the milk. We carry a message of enormous importance to mankind, the greatest message, the most important one that any body of people have ever carried. There have, in my opinion, been only three great ideas that have come down to the human race. The first is the idea of one great central power, which is God. The second is the idea that gentleness and selfishness, virtue, are greater things than violence, selfishness and vice. The third idea is the one to which we are bearing witness, that death is not the obstacle it was once thought to be. The statement, I believe, is as important now as it was then. So take those thoughts and know that each day, each hour, each minute is important. And if you miss this minute, remember, there's another minute coming along. Make that minute count. Thank you for listening to me.